If you have a good job here, actually I consider it to be more free than the United States in terms of like quality of life. I find myself much happier here than the non-stop life I had in the USA.
Meet Raleigh. He's an American who has lived in Thailand, Costa Rica, Slovakia, but chose Serbia as his home. He has been living here for 10 years. He works as an English teacher, hosts craft beer tours, and plays country and blues music. He shared with me why he feels more free and happy in Serbia than in America, what is similar between Serbs and Americans, and what is the most unconventional food festival in Serbia. Enjoy! What was your first impressions from Serbia when you came here first time?
I was staying at a hostel, so I was at some hostel, and I went down to the Skadalia, the famous Bohemian Quarter, and I remember just going into some cafe and some guy's like, blah, you're American? He tells me the NATO bombing story, and I was a little concerned, like, oh, well, this is not the way I want to start this conversation. He says, it's okay. He says, you should try our pljeskavica, you should try some of our cevapi. And then he just like bought me a dinner there. Like he said, you must try our great Serbian barbecue, rostil. So he bought me a dinner, bought me a rakia, and then just said, welcome to Serbia. And like I said, that was like my first or second night in the country, and that did leave an impression on me.
Wow, so the conversation began that your country bombed our country, and then he bought you a dinner.
Yeah, that was...
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Is it difficult for you as an English speaking person to live in Belgrade? People speak English here or not quite?
Big difference between when you're in Belgrade and when you go to the small towns. My first 2 years I was taking courses to study Serbian language. As I said, I was really determined to live here. So basically those 2 years, I mean, I can read and write Cyrillic. My biggest struggle basically, I could speak, but I got so wrapped up in these padaji, declinations. English language only has like one declination, singular plural. Serbian has 7 declinations. I can't just say imam kafa, I have to say imam kafu, kafe, idem na kafum. You know, there's all these endings that I got so frustrated trying to get perfect. And then finally I just said, I quit trying to learn about the declinations, the padaji, and I just use it without the padaji. And it became easier. I mean, of course, I still sound like a foreigner, but at least I can get through some conversations if I just don't worry about this grammar so much.
Oh yeah, I can totally relate. I have my classes in Serbian, and it's, for me, as a Slavic speaker, padaji, it's okay. I know in Russia we have the same padaji, but they are different, you know. And in Serbian, we have so-called false friends of translator. Desno means right in Serbian. Pravo means straight in Serbian, and levo means left in Serbian. In Russian, right means pravo. So Serbian can tell you pravo na levo. Pravo na levo means straight to the left, and we understand it like right to the left, quite the opposite directions.
Since I had lived in Slovakia and I was I learned some Czech Slovak, and I had some rather embarrassing incidents where a word I thought was useful from Slovak Czech language has a completely different meaning for Serbo-Croatian.
Yeah.
Very embarrassing.
Do you feel any kind of differences between communication style of Serbian people and the people from the US?
My joke when people ask me what Serbs are like, I say, imagine if Russia and Spain had a child. That's Serbia. Everything is like Slavic. You know, you have the Cyrillic, you have the Orthodox stuff, you have the rakia, not vodka. So there is that kind of Slavic element there, but something about warm weather, being close to Mediterranean, there's more of the like Italian, Spanish vibe for just talking and being loud and chatting with strangers, and it's not such a problem. Certainly when I lived in Costa Rica and in South America and speaking Spanish, there's more of that atmosphere I've seen in Latin countries. It's perfectly fine to talk to strangers and, you know, chat with them, and it's not uncomfortable.
Maybe you have picked up some new habits while you are living for so long time in Serbia.
My friends in the USA, they've noticed I won't think about it, I'll just be like, hey, jebiga. Just say jebiga for everything.
What does it mean?
Oh, jebiga? Oh, that's the best Serbian word. Jebiga would literally, I think would be like fuck it, but it can be a positive thing. Jebiga, jebiga. It's used for everything here. Like I don't give a fuck, to it's fucking great to see you. But it is, yeah. a curse. I mean, I was already kind of like laid back, relaxed, so I've had people comment that I'm a little more direct now than I used to be. Kind of gotten used to explaining my story, people ask me what's going on, and maybe I've become a little more open about it.
On your Instagram, I found the post where you are saying that you have Slava on 17th of March. Are you really into Orthodox Church, or is it like a homage to Serbian culture?
It's a joke, but there is an actual connection. When I lived and worked in St. Louis, there's an old neighborhood that is Irish immigrants. So there they observe March 17th, St. Patrick's Day, traditionally. So that neighborhood, I got into this more traditional parade and the festivities that are always observed on March 17th, regardless of if it's a Tuesday, Wednesday, not just a weekend non-working day. My friends here knew that I would always go back to the US for St. Patrick's Day. Christmas, not necessarily, Easter. So they're like, oh, okay, yeah, so St. Patrick is like your patron saint. Like, yeah, whatever. But in fact, one of my friends who's much more into history, he told me that St. Patrick was in fact recognized as a saint before the Byzantine split of Orthodox and Catholic Christianity. So he said, technically, St. Patrick can be your Orthodox saint, your Slava. You know, I said, okay, great, thank you for the lesson in history, but yeah, sure, he's my Slava, patron saint now.
3 best things for you about living in Serbia.
The hospitality, the food, well, that's if you're not vegetarian, because I do love the roast dill. Relaxed atmosphere. I'm trying to think of a good word for it. It's more relaxed here. I like that the pace is a little slower here than what I'm used to. I've been told many times that I'm worrying too much about something or moving too fast. Like it's like there's the Serbian word polako. I get told that a lot, polako. Like chill out, relax. I still don't think that way. That's Americans. We're always constantly moving, working. But I do appreciate the polako attitude. Even though I'm from a small town, still in small towns, that's just generally in the United States. Everything is expected to get done, immediately. I mean, it's even considered even more high-end if you're in New York or a big city, but even in the U.S. and small towns, there's still very much this desire to have everything organized, strict, and on time. So I said what I enjoyed when I lived in Latin America was the Latino lifestyle is also the same, sort of like, mañana.
By the way, what is your favorite Serbian food?
I really like muchkalica.
What is it?
Muchkalica is like a combination, it's like a stew sort of meat with the peppers in it, paprikas. So yeah, they have a lot of the peppers chopped up in it with meat, I think onions and some other spices. It can be a little bit spicy. You can't find it everywhere, but yeah, it's something I like and I try to prepare it myself. It can be a little bit spicy depending. Muchkalica.
So you've told about 3 best things about Serbia. Now 3 worst things about Serbia.
Is it fair to say that the polako is also a problem? Yeah, when you're trying to get your lična karta, you get your documents and papers, yeah, that's a problem. You're waiting, weeks to get, work visa papers approved, weeks to do that. Yeah, that's when the polako is a bad thing. And that's constantly a complaint to foreigners. Like here I am going to the MUPA trying to get my work papers and waiting, weeks. I want to get a bank account. So that's a common complaint. That's the bad side of the polako. I occasionally do run into that nationalist guy who will be like, Americans. But I've learned now when I hear the conversation going that way, I like meeting strangers and I like that friendliness, but I've kind of learned that if the conversation seems to be going that way, I'll just kind of go away.
I found a photo on your Instagram where you're giving thumbs up in front of graffiti, fuck the US.
Yeah.
You seem to be pretty okay with these things.
I'm aware of people who do have that mentality, but generally people are friendly about it. I'm sure whoever wrote that, maybe they don't even know. They're probably some angry 14-year-old kid who wasn't even alive during the bombing. But yeah, I'm fine with being very sarcastic, very ironic. I will always make jokes about that. Fat Americans, we don't know English, we don't know how to speak any language. Give me a Coca-Cola and a hamburger, I'm fine with joking about that.
By the way, about bureaucracy, do you have here permanent residency or maybe you have citizenship?
Basically it's residency, the renewal, like every year for that. The private enterprise, my teaching English is a business.
Maybe you are thinking about getting citizenship in Serbia?
Yeah, I would like to. ideally have that as permanent citizenship. And, I'm engaged right now, and we'll just see if the citizenship through the difficult way of going through the private business. But of course, if our engagement is fine, we get married, then there you go.
You are going to get married to a Serbian wife.
Yeah, we've been engaged for 2 years here.
And you'll become Srpski Z.
Yeah.
Oh, great, great.
I kind of make the point, it's great, but I kind of make that point that, I can go through all my story of how I came here and how I love it, but sometimes it's just easier to say, Imam Srpska žena, It makes it easier than going through the whole story. But if I just say, I have a Serbian woman, most guys are like, oh, bravo. She conquered you. she took you to here. It makes it a little easier, yeah.
I've read that you have tried to do a tourist business here. What do you think now could be the most attractive for tourists points in Serbia?
I did speak at one tourism conference here a few years ago, and I specifically said, trying to put a lot of this new modern architecture like Belgrade waterfront, that doesn't really fit here. I really like going to the small towns, doing hikes, camping out in the woods, the mountains here. It's beautiful, untouched nature. I mean this in a good way, it's not necessarily regulated. You can go off, camp anywhere you want, hike anywhere, and there's not really paying fees, to camp, or they're checking you can't go here or here. You're still very free kind of to explore. So that nature is really beautiful. And I especially enjoyed organizing some groups to, take a bus out to a park, and we would, spend a few nights there. And I'm particular in food festivals. I would like to organize groups, and we go out to some festival in a small town and go there. All the farmers, the vendors are, offering their food to buy and sample.
What are the best festivals you would recommend in Serbia?
The ones I always organize groups for are the Slaninijada, Kobasicijada, and Mudijada, which Slaninijada is bacon festival, Kobasicijada is sausage festival, and Mudijada is testicle festival. Yeah. They literally eat the balls.
Is it tasty?
It's like eating bread or tofu. It just takes the flavor of whatever you prepare it in.
It's a part of national Serbian cuisine? Or?
It's considered that. Like Joseph Broz Tito supposedly ate lots of it. Yeah, in the smaller towns you will still see people preparing it. But yeah, it's an unusual thing.
The most crazy story that happened to you in Balkans?
Well, it could be about this guitar. This was when I first was just backpacking, hitchhiking around here. I was being hosted by a family in Mostar, and I had already had an American friend, a guy I'd met in Dubrovnik from the week before. He was staying at a hostel, but I was staying with these Bosnians. So they invited us out, and we were first below the Mostar Bridge, and I was playing my guitar, singing. We had a group of Americans who were like one of those religious, missionary groups. We were partying with them for a while, and then we brought some of them up with the Bosnians, and we decided to do some kind of drinking game on the Mostar Bridge. So we were on the Mostar Bridge doing this drinking game, where you have to spin this bottle and then dare the person to do something crazy. The American guy knew he was very drunk. He likes to cliff dive, so he likes to jump off cliffs into the water. I had gotten a dare where I was supposed to run from one end of the bridge in my underwear. So I ran from one end of the bridge just in my underwear, and I did that dare. And next dare was, I dare you to run in the bridge like this. The guy was drunk, and he heard, I dare you to jump off the bridge. My guitar was sitting there in front of the wall to get off the bridge. So he ended up stepping on my guitar, smashed it, and then jumped off the bridge. As I see him falling in the water, I'm like, if he doesn't die from falling in the water from the Mostar Bridge, I'll kill him because he just broke my guitar.
Wow. It's like, he was okay?
Yeah, he cliff dive as a sport, so he knew how to jump from that distance. He came up and he saw my broken guitar and he started crying, actually, because he said, oh, I was with you for these past 2 weeks and I loved what you do with your music. And he attempted to buy me a guitar in Sarajevo. His credit card got declined, and that was strange. And then he had to go back to the USA. And then I came to Belgrade my first time, and that's where I bought this.
Your family visit you here in Serbia and Belgrade?
Yeah, my parents came here.
What were the impressions?
They had taken some Danube cruise. They started in Germany and came on this cruise ship down here. And they said when they compared Germany, Austria, Hungary, they said, yeah, people were the nicest here. You know, that was their short view of Europe, and they just said of the countries we went to on the cruise, Serbs were the friendliest compared to the Germans, Austrians, and Hungarians. That's what they said. And also the food was good.
Are there any similarities between the US and Serbia?
Small town Americans are quite similar to small town Serbs. Friendly, laid back, maybe kind of conservative in their mentality, but they will still be polite to you. Sometimes talking loud. Sometimes Serbs can be quite loud, just like Americans. I'm from a small town. My little town of Godfrey is 15,000 people. While I'm not a farmer, I did do some summers working on farms, and I grew up in a rural area. I do enjoy going out to the small towns of Serbia because, I don't know, kind of the small town village attitude is the same no matter which country you go to. They tend to be a little more relaxed, friendly. I mean, sometimes more closed-minded, conservative, but they usually tend to be more polite regardless of where you're from. And I see that in small towns regardless of which country you go to.
How do you view the US now after living for so long time in Serbia?
It's so much safer here than in the United States in terms of street crime. I always talk about that. It's nice here, Belgrade, the capital city. I can go out at night, walk around on a Saturday. I can walk all the way from the city center to my apartment here, 30 minutes. No one ever shouts at me. No one has ever came up to me, attacked me. Felt very safe. In the United States, no. You see the news constantly. Mass shootings in a school, mass shootings in a shopping mall, in a concert, on the street. That's a big problem in the United States, our violence and our gun violence. And that is a big thing I say. If you come here, you're gonna feel much safer here than in most cities in the USA.
What do you think the US can learn from Serbia?
Learn how to appreciate the quality of life. This is Serbia, but a lot of this is in more the Balkans, Mediterranean, Europe. To appreciate more the quality of your friendships and your family, enjoying a coffee with someone, enjoying time with your children, if you have them. Value that more than just thinking about your job constantly. That's a lot of it. So much of the psychology you see in the United States. People with their anxiety, depression, mental issues. In the USA, when you have those issues, you talk about them. It's, I go to a psychologist and I pay for it, to fix that. Or I take medication to fix it. Here, when people have their anxiety, depression, they call a friend, family, and they go and sit for a coffee and talk about it. And I think that's a much more natural way to fix those problems than taking pills and paying a psychologist. That's something that Americans could learn, appreciating that quality of life with friends and family. Getting employment, getting work can be difficult, but if you have a good job here, actually I consider it to be more free than the United States. I find myself much happier here than the non-stop life I had in the USA.